Something you'd like to share, Detective Reyes? You're good. Twisting the truth into knots, making the facts work for you. Thanks, but your luck just ran out. Because the net scrubbers found a cam active at the exact moment of the shooting, and right now, I'm staring at a photo of the killer. Wanna bet? A photo of the shooter? If she had that, she wouldn't still be talking. But I doubt she's just pulling this out of her ass. She's got something from the scrubbers. She must have something. She must be bluffing. Oh. Thing is, what good would she have for bluffing this at this point? Also, the guns spinning behind the justices and her holding an AK. I've just noticed that. That's really weird. She must have something, because I think she must have something. I'm going to have to stay. I'm not sure I followed, Detective. Didn't we establish there was an optics blackout during the shooting? Sure there was, but this isn't from optics. Good thing I held my tongue. As I thought, the scrubbers must have managed to dig up something from outside the network. Which means... Party's over, counsellor. Feast your eyes on this. Well, okay, the quality is lacking. And yet, there it is. They managed to find a quarter needle of evidence and a whole city block of haystacks. What are the goddamn chances? No, with the scales their tools operate on, I guess the chances are always in their favour. Alright, this isn't good, but it's a far cry from the worst case scenario I envisioned. You could even say I got lucky, which means the stakes are... Well, it's a little bit blurry. Don't look at me, I didn't take the damn thing. Technically, no one took it. Looks like at the time of the shooting, a neighbour was on their phone, probably venting about how crazy the couple across the way was acting. But if their phone was on, the camera would be on. And so we managed to get this shot through the window. Where to begin? Far away, unfocused, ultra-low resolution, zoomed in, blurred, colour shifted. And so compressed it looks like it's from another century. There are tools that could enhance this image any further, and I could count the pixels on one hand. And you could kiss its admissibility and call it goodbye. You can't honestly claim that you can identify my client from this image. And there's no way in hell you could get this past a judge. Yeah, you're probably right, we couldn't. But I think I know a DA that could. Either way, it doesn't seem like your client's leaving the police station anytime soon. What does that prove? We know somebody shot her, she was shot. But if that doesn't prove it's him, then it doesn't prove anything. It is irrelevant evidence. That photo. What the hell is happening to me? Think I know a DA that could? Don't be so modest, old man. We have photo evidence of a left-hand... Oh, yeah, no, that'll be it. Yeah, fair enough, that is actually... That makes it more compelling. I forgot that bit. We have photo evidence of a left-handed shooter standing in the hallway at the same time the whole neighbourhood heard a gunshot. And who do we know that has left-handed fingerprints all over that gun? You're referring to my client. You think? We've established he wasn't wearing his modded arm at all tonight, so he must have shot with his left. Yes, and we've established that he's weak with his left side. A left side that had no gunpowder whatsoever. Forensics will never be perfect, counsellor. Sometimes we miss things. Sometimes you take a walk through the rain, and when you finally get where you're going, you end up dry. But that doesn't mean it didn't rain. All of which is to say, before judge or jury, photographic evidence outweighs a failed sniff test. Carlos is innocent, I know he is. But that photo shows a left-handed shooter. Carlos is innocent, that photo is real, and both are true. And that means the photo doesn't show what it appears to show. Right. It's a reversed image because the clock is in the wrong direction. It shows the wrong time. So it doesn't show 9. Or does it show 9? No. I reckon the clock is reversed. So, at a loss for words, and can I see the image again? No, I think that is the correct time. 9 o'clock. Damn. So, at a loss for words? Never. I'm just confused about one thing. Where was the photo taken from exactly? Exactly. Positional data is usually only accurate to the nearest public router. If we de-an on the phone's owner and ask them where, why bother with any of that? Ballistics and common sense tells us that the perp shot from the room's doorway. The front entrance to the apartment faces to the south and there's a hallway that runs back to the bedroom. We're looking straight at the shooter, so it's pretty obvious this was taken from across the north window. From the north. If this is from the north, then why can we clearly see the... It's not that complicated. The neighbour who got the shot must live on the other side of the street. So we're looking into the bedroom from the north window. If she's wrong, I can seize the opportunity to start turning the tide. Right, let me have a quick snoopy. The photo was taken from the north, or the photo was taken from the west. Well, the only way the photo could be from the west is if it was like reflected in the mirror, but I don't think it is, because it's not a camera mirror. They made a point of saying it is an actual mirror, which means that this would be backwards. And it does, the fact that it's captured such a wide angle really does imply that it is actually through the north window. I don't see the issue here. It does seem like it was taken from the north because, like, if I would completely be on top of it if the clock was reversed, implying it was a shot through a mirror. But the clock was on the wall. The mirror was upright. Like, it seems like the mirror was upright. Would it have blocked the window? I think that might be it. I think it's that, like, the mirror is in front of the north window. Meaning that in the recreation, that's the north window. There's the mirror and the clock is on the other wall. So unless they have multiple clocks, but I can't see the place... Again, it won't let me, like, I can't go back into the AR view. Alright, I'm going to save, just in case I've completely got the wrong end of this stick. But I'm going to say the photo was taken from the west because the clock is on the wrong wall. I'm afraid that's simply not possible, Detective. The photo has to be taken from the west. What kind of bluff is that supposed to be? The good detectives are misinformed here and I need to take advantage of it. Time to press the initiative. The hell do you mean it was taken from the west? The autopsy says the victim was shot from the doorway. The ARC's data tells the precise location of everything in the room at the time they arrived. And now your photo's given us the exact moment of the shooting. And... raise the ante on a hand up to the current max. Answer wrong and you'll lose more credit, but answer correct and you can bank up more credit for trickier hands down the line. And altogether, that tells us the photo must have been taken from the west window as long as you consider the statement. The clock was on the wall. I'm going all in on this one because yeah, they are all completely unrelated, so it's got to be the statement. Just take one look at that clock in the photo. The clock? What about it? The clock, huh? Seems like London's got an idea. If he's mistaken, I could pounce on it and keep my tempo high. The photo was taken right before the shooting, so... Wait, don't tell me the time of death is wrong. He's right, the time of death could be wrong. Time of death is correct. Time of death is 9 PM. That is correct. Right. So, if the time of death is wrong, then the murder would have to have been committed 3 hours later, but that doesn't line up with what Carlos said. 6 hours later, it would have to be 3 AM, but that can't be right. Because they arrived on scene at... I'm really confused. If this is mirrored, it would mean the shooting had to happen at 3 AM, right? Which is only an hour ago. It couldn't have been. and they've got like exact times that people arrived on scene, and it was at like 9:10, so the shooting had to have been around 9 o'clock. So I don't understand how that could be incorrect. He is right. No, the time of death is correct. I'm going to save again. I'm really, like, I really feel like I'm on the verge of completely misunderstanding how this works. He's wrong. The time of death is correct. That's a good question, Detective London. But the answer's no. Okay, so no, I am right. So I don't understand where he was going. He seemed to have an idea that went against their narrative. And I'm like, no, your narrative is correct. The autopsy, the clock, and the neighbours all agree the time of death was 9 p.m. Right, no mistake in that. Right, so he just began to get confused by all of this, and I jumped on that to get a bit of extra credit. Then what the hell are you on about? Sorry, I'm still trying to understand, like, the logic of how this works, because it isn't playing out like a normal sort of detective lawyer game, you know, like Phoenix Wright, where there's basically just one correct answer in any given situation, and it's the only obvious answer. This is really making me think and work for this. There's a clock on the wall in this photo, analog style, and it reads 9 o'clock. 9 p.m, the time of the shooting. The hell's so special about that? Nothing. There's nothing odd about the time the clock reads, but do you remember there being a clock in the room? What? Actually, I don't recall there being a clock. That makes sense. You wouldn't recall seeing a clock, because when the police secured the scene, the clock had already been knocked onto the floor. And the only clock in that room is the northeastern corner. And my client has informed me that before the crime, it was hung on the eastern wall. Like so. Yes! I'm glad I got this all right. What the hell is that supposed to be? An artist's rendition. It's very distinct. If you had information on how the crime scene was before the shooting, why didn't you just add that to the arcs? And show you my hand? Just because the discovery law compels us to share info doesn't mean we have to play fair, detective. Slipped my mind. I'll do that now. Right, so that was the circular thing that I kept trying to pick up on behind the mirror. It was the clock knocked onto the floor. I was wondering why it wouldn't let me do anything with it. The important thing is, if that clock was on the eastern wall before the shooting occurred, then how the hell was he stood in the doorway? This photo must be looking through the western window to see it. Don't start getting ahead of yourself. The victim was shot at 9 p.m, the same time the photo was taken. And you want to claim the clock's still on the eastern wall when it wouldn't have been knocked down during the fighting? You've got your logic backwards, detective. Your precious photo shows the room was pristine. Well, it was pristine at the time of the shooting. And there was one piece of evidence that proves exactly how the cards fell. The mirror, I'm guessing, the broken glass. Because the mirror was broken, and the shards fell onto the victim, meaning the mirror was broken after the victim was shot. Glass shards? What about them? Nothing much, really. Only that they're on top of the victim's body. And not under it. If the glass fell on top of the victim's body, that would mean that she was dead on the ground before the room got trashed. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone trash the room afterwards? Because they were looking for something. It's a good question, Carlos. Luckily, it's the detectives who have to delve into the minds of the criminally insane, not us. Tell me, detectives, were there any signs of a struggle at the other crime scenes? Other crime scenes? No, nothing like that. Sorry, I got his voice wrong. Those attacks would have been over in a matter of seconds. So what did you think when you saw the mess in the bedroom? That this was personal and things had gotten complicated. Shit happens. Shit does happen, detective. But in this case, it seems there's a general misconception about the order in which shit happened. So what if the room didn't get tossed until afterwards? He still shot her. And we have a photo right here. And I'm glad you do, detective, because that photo proves my client's innocence. Again, for the second time. Ha! Proving that it wasn't my client who pulled the trigger is difficult. Maybe more importantly for all of us, time-consuming. Thanks to your photo, I can instead prove that it couldn't have been my client who pulled the trigger. because that man in the photo couldn't possibly be Carlos. For a start, he looks bald. Like hell it can't. The glass shards prove the room was pristine at the time of the shooting, and we know that until the room was tossed, that clock was on the eastern wall, which means that the photo the shooter was taken from the west. Sorry, that was all Morgan saying that. I do apologise. I read that in Reyes' voice. Back to this shit, that's impossible. The only hallway in that apartment runs north to south. The only person with prints on that gun is your client. And the only fact that matters is that he used it to murder 6 innocent people. You're a very honest person, Detective. Excuse me. That's why you're such a shitty gambler. You've always played your cards too early, and now I can steal the pot, can peel the pot. I'm going to do some pot peeling. You're right about the hallway's orientation, you're right about the prints. And this HK figure has claimed 6 lives. But we aren't looking at the hallway in that photo, because it's next to the mirror. What? What we're seeing is... Right, that's the mirror. Yes. Right. God, I was circling this one for a while. That was the mirror upright. Sorry, I was... Where's my mouse? There it is. I was thrown off by bloody his picture. Because I thought with the mirror being there, it implied that the mirror stood in that corner. If he'd said the mirror was bloody there, I could have cracked this ages ago. That's the victim. No. No cams. The stand-up mirror, not digital. So the fact that it's a stand-up mirror is relevant and not digital because it presumably a digital one wouldn't flip the image, but also a digital one wouldn't require the person to be stood directly in front of them, meaning that a photo taken from across the way would be able to catch the reflected image in the mirror and see the person stood at the doorway with the image reversed, meaning it is a right-handed shooter. I forgot to increase my bet. Buggery. What we're seeing is... What is that? You're trying the glass shards again? Sort of. By the way, do you recall where those glass shards came from? Yeah, sure, they came from a standing mirror. A mirror that at the time of the shooting stood across the room from the west window. But then that would mean, at that angle, from that viewpoint, it would reflect the hallway. So we're not seeing a shooter with a gun in their left hand. We're seeing a killer take aim with their right hand. And as we all know, my client hasn't had a working right arm in a number of weeks. And he hasn't worn his rental since this morning. So I meant what I said about that photo. I'm glad that it was recovered. Because it just proved my client couldn't possibly have committed this crime. That should be the end of it. Except it looks like Detective Reyes really is a novice gambler. Sunk Cost has got its teeth in her now, clawing up her spine, whispering wounded pride in her ear. It's a cold sweat, hot palms kind of fever, the impotent, irrational fury of losing something you thought was guaranteed yours. But lucky for you, Detective, I'm well versed in shock therapy. You look dissatisfied, Detective Reyes. That's one word for it. Then allow me to put a nice bow on everything for you. In summary, my client's so-called confession was just a note to self. The police found him in shock, reeling at the death of his girlfriend, and arrested him for being next to a gun he forensically couldn't have fired. After being confronted with these facts, you received photographic evidence of the exact moment of the shooting, and instead of utilising said photo to track down the real killer, you tried to claim it depicted my client, a man without the requisite limb. Standing in front of an architecturally impossible hallway, that's... You could have had a backup arm, you could have stolen one. A little stubbornness can be charming, but this kind of desperation is ugly. It's getting late, time to bare my fangs a bit. That's the best you've got? Even a bare-bones prosthetic of the black market needs to be attuned to an individual's nervous system. You'd have to bring it to a clinic, which would have left a record on his shoulder OS. A record you won't find. and you still have to somehow have gotten rid of it before the police arrived. SOP at the scene of a violent crime calls for a full spectrum scanning of the entire building and 100 meters around it minimum. So where, Detective Reyes, did he manage to hide a cybernetic arm from your drones in the time between the shooting and his arrest? Well? Any objections? Detective? God. Damn it! Hey! Show me your hand, Flat. You're uncuffing me? In light of the evidence, we have no reason to hold you. Now I've got to call the DA and tell her I made a mistake. Not we made a mistake, huh? Listen, kid, you should know. Detective? Lost my train of thought. But hey, your attorney's a real tiger and she just fought like hell for you. Make sure you thank her properly. Public defense doesn't pay that well. Yeah. That's kind of you to say, Detective. But my work is its own reward. Sure. I feel exactly the same, Counselor. What happens now? I'll have to speak with the DA about this dismissal, and there's still some paperwork we'll need to go through, but basically you're free to go. Congrats, you get to leave the casino with your kneecaps intact. Yay? But what am I supposed to do? The detectives will continue their investigation. Their investigation into Heartbreak, huh? Yes. When the authorities are satisfied with their examination of the body, she'll be handed over to the next of kin, and then you can make funeral arrangements. No, that's not what I... Diane being gone is bad enough, but a serial killer? It's like she died of the flu. Just doesn't happen anymore. People die of the flu all the time, but I know what you mean. I can't make sense of it. What am I supposed to do? Hell if I know. There are some contacts I could give you. Services, professionals, doctors. No, you've done more than enough for me. When you got here, I was too tired to even defend myself, to try and convince them I didn't. You saved me. Thank you. You're welcome, Carlos, but it's my job to... No, I mean, thank you for not asking. For not asking if I killed her. Oh, Carlos. I didn't need to ask. I knew you were innocent from the start. Of course he was. After all... The blood's always different. Heart's always the same place, easy to find, hard to miss. But the blood's always different. A flowering stain unfurling towards an invisible sun. A perfectly unique bloom, only one for each of us. A Rorschach test with singular universal meaning, vitality at its climax. Bursting forth into a red fractal consisting solely of an infinite, the end. But the comical thud of a body hitting the floor is its own kind of lowbrow appeal. Well, I didn't see that coming.